A lot of people obviously know Flames of War and the Flames of War system. Team-Yankee, or what is now World War III Team-Yankee.
Yep.
How is this different to Flames of War? What's this rulebook bringing to
So
the table?
there's a lot of key differences between the two systems, although they're very similar in how they play, how they set up, how the tournament play is for it as well.
Yeah.
There is some key differences. So after speaking quite extensively to the writing team in New Zealand, they came up with a nice list for us. So basically, you get helicopters and strike aircraft.
Okay.
As per the 1985 timeline, compared to, say, Flames of War, which is 39 to 45,
Yep.
you're getting your helicopters and strike teams.
So this is further down the line than
A lot
Flames
further
of
down the
War.
line, yeah.
Yep.
Still a lot of the same nations, just
Yep.
some of the nations have maybe switched sides.
Yep.
So what would have been your Germans in Flames of War
Yep.
are now split between West and East Germany.
Okay. Yeah.
The East Germans are part of the Warsaw Pact, which is now Soviet Russia.
Yep.
Soviets used to be allies, now they are essentially the bad guys, but they're not. They're the alternate side because, you know, essentially you can't decide who's good and bad, other than they were the belligerents in World War III.
Are there any units from Flames of War that cannot be used in this?
So essentially, it's completely different units.
Yeah.
Tactical doctrine is still the same.
Yeah.
The British kind of line of defence were very good at artillery, still remains.
Yeah.
The Americans were very good with the big tanks, and lots of them is very much remaining. The Soviet horde style is remaining, but the actual models, you can't use them.
Right.
So the models themselves are completely different.
So it is a standalone game.
It is
It's
a
not just
standalone game,
bolt-on.
yeah. It will be one of those where, and part of the reason we've made it World War III Team-Yankee is to appeal to that wider audience, to let more people that have never heard of Team-Yankee know what it entails.
Yeah, I mean, that it is Team-Yankee or World War III Team-Yankee. It tells you a lot more just in that.
Straight away, just on the title, yeah. And the new graphic gives that away because it is very much World War III Team-Yankee,
More
you know.
modern.
Yeah, and you can still see that it's, you know, more modern tanks and things like that in it. I mean, the Americans are still using M1 Abrams now. The British, for example, have got a Challenger 2, which is very similar to Challenger 1. It's just got a lot of upgrades on it and things like that. But no, you can't use any Flames of War in this. It is a standalone game, and to that purpose, it has its own product range and everything else. Other differences between Flames of War, the card layout is slightly different.
Right, yeah.
So when you're looking at your cards, your unit cards, which is a big part of Flames of War version 4 and World War III Team-Yankee, they are slightly different. So, for example, Team-Yankee uses morale rather than last stand.
Right.
It's a key word difference. It just means a slightly different thing, but it does the same job. It allows you to know whether your unit is staying on the table or whether it goes, we've had enough, we're too battle worn now.
Broken.
Yeah, my tanks are broken, you need to get out. The other thing is that all unit leaders can spot for artillery. So in Flames of War, you had to have dedicated spotter teams.
Yeah.
Due to sort of 1985 or 40 years down the line,
Radio
Sony
restrictions,
Walkman,
right?
yeah. Now you've suddenly got the handheld radios, things like that.
Texting.
Yeah, I mean, the simple form of send the pigeon doesn't exist anymore. You've literally got a radio. So all unit leaders can spot for artillery, as well as having dedicated FOOs, which is your forward observation officers.
Okay.
They still exist within the game,
Yeah.
very much like a spot artillery officer from the Second World War, things like that. And then you can still range in with FOOs, so your forward observation officers. You also have specialist observers as well. So it's an option that you can have within it. It just means that when you've got things like your rocket launchers firing over a large area, they don't just have to saturate a point if they can't see it. Somebody else can say, I want it there.
There's more pressure on them too, because if any unit can support an artillery unit, you really have to think about how well you're dealing with this.
The Soviets need to think they can't have a car park of tanks anymore because suddenly they've got MLRS coming in.
You just need one little...
Absolutely,
one of your little Reese troop things, or recce troops.
Yeah, your recce troop could literally come in.
It's like, guys.
Especially as a unit leader, and then you've also got night fighting as well. In Flames of War, no aircraft could sort of come in at night because they just didn't have the observational equipment. Whereas Team-Yankee can, from the first turn, come in with the strike aircraft, with the helicopters. They've got infrared and things like that. Yeah, absolutely. Which kind of leads on a little bit as well to the differences between what we call version 1 Team-Yankee and World War III.
Okay, yeah.
So one of the things with artillery is the mechanics have now changed to match Flames of War. So essentially artillery is now more effective against troops and top armour. Whereas before it was against different parts of the vehicle on your stat card. Now it's top armour. You're basically looking at your artillery and going, that can hurt me.
Yeah, positioning is big on this because obviously you have various areas that are.
Yeah.
And now something landing on top of you is going to screw you.
Yeah, it's going to hurt. So that's where it's not even about sitting back and just firing.
Yeah.
It's what we were talking about when we were putting this table together earlier. It's about getting your lines of sight. And, you know, a good table setup would mean that you negate that anyway. But if you've got somebody sat back and they come under an artillery barrage, it's going to hurt. This is all about getting forward, fast, armoured, violent, basically.
You're forced into combat.
Yeah, you're getting as close as possible, as quick as possible, you know. There's always that old rule, sort of story from the Gulf War where the British were so far away from the Iraqis as they were sort of firing, they got the longest kill range. But a lot of the British units and the American units in the Gulf War were actually doing like a scissor maneuver where they were coming through the Iraqi lines, turning around and going back the other way, and it was close combat all the time. And then the troops come in and mop up afterwards, and that's your combined armed warfare, you know. So I said about morale earlier on.
Yeah.
The other one here is that it's actually simple and easier to use in line with Flames of War. Yeah. It means that now you only test for unit morale at the start of the turn. It's not at the end of the shoot and the assault step.
Right.
Things are more survivable now.
Yeah.
So whereas you used to have a bucket load of dice, lots of things would die and then half your army's gone,
yeah.
now things are a bit more survivable. You can actually get units into last stand positions a bit better, and things don't run away. Things don't get destroyed as quickly. Yeah. And that just makes it a little bit more of longevity to the game, and actually it almost makes it a bit more realistic. You know, you might have your officer in a challenger who's actually getting his men charged forward. You know, the old adage of standing at the top of his tank with his cavalry sword, let me closer to hit the enemy, that kind of thing, you know. We've also updated the mission section, so a really big part of all of our books is the mission sections in the back and battle plans, especially when you go into tournaments and things.
Yeah.
Simplified it. We've now got a battle plan table where you roll on your dice, 2 players do, you match the results, and that tells you what mission.
Right.
It means you can't actually, especially for tournaments, really have a force that's tailored to one kind of scenario. Right. You could be forced on the offensive, you could be forced on the attack. It could even dictate what table layout you've got, or deployment zones or anything like that. Really big major part of the change we took from the tournament scene and just even casual gamers and feedback we've had from Team-Yankee. And then the other major difference with Team-Yankee is vehicles don't become bogged down anymore.
Right.
Okay, so if they fail a cross check, they just stop moving until the next turn.
Yeah.
So you don't have this where it's bogged down. It just stops moving, it sits there, it can still shoot, it just can't move. And then after that, if it passes its next check to get across a terrain, it just keeps going.
Yeah.
We found it was a lot more simpler in Flames of War to work like that, a lot more realistic as well. Otherwise, you had somebody literally a concrete wall that normally a tank could just charge through, something like that, you know. Yeah. Some of the major differences, but the World War III Team-Yankee plays really well, plays really nice and streamlined.
Yep.
You said in the previous video about the back of the book, you've got that nice sort of quick start guide and the reference sheet at the back.
Yeah, it's straight on the back.
Yeah, and very much like the Flames of War, it's got your starting step very quickly laid out. It then moves on to movement, shooting, artillery, and then assault step.
Shoot, artillery.
Yeah, and you've got all the different rules. You've got references to where to go in the rule book to find out the rule if you need to. But in theory, you can play a whole game just like that.
That is quite handy, yeah. So I've got selecting aiming point. Oh, it's on page 52.
Yeah.
So if the quick reference isn't quite enough and I need to refresh,
then you can quickly flick to 52 in the full rule book, and you get back to it where you need to be. And there it is.
Selecting aiming point.
With some nice pictures as well.
Very well represented. So I've had a look through. This is the one you fired across me to look through before.
Yes, it is, yeah.
The images are actually really detailed. So what I was looking at was cover and naming, and it illustrates like the distance you need to be, like say within a cornfield to see somebody or away from the edge of stuff really nicely. With this, again, the terrain that you guys produce as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is what the table is laid out with right now, is all your terrain.
And it just makes it that little bit more realistic as well. We've got all our tanks sat in a car park, quite literally, next to the fast food joint. You've got the...
How realistic.
Absolutely. They've stopped for dinner, you know, they've got to. You've got your apartment blocks, which could easily be West or Eastern Europe. Yep. We've got a little bit of terrain with the factories. I've got some Flames of War terrain over here, which is equally, you can move in and out, you know. Trees, generic terrain, and the roads. And the roads just look brilliant when they're all set out.
They do, yeah. These come in like boxes of like... Well, there's like 8 pieces.
Yeah, so we've got 2 bits. We've actually got the modern roads, which are more straight sections and some curved sections.
Yeah.
You've got the overpass, which is this part here, which makes obviously a nice bridge.
Yeah.
There's a little divider in there, so you can actually make it a double width bridge or a double.
Really nicely.
Yeah, or a double length bridge as well as width.
Yeah.
And then you get the modern roads expansion, which has got some T junctions in. It's got some more curved sections. And you can really set up a board and go to town on it. And even in the books, you actually see a lot of the roads being used. I mean, on the back of the British book and things like that, you've got live pictures and things,
all the illustrations within here use that terrain for the actual, like, the rules and instructions.
Yeah. So whether it's more countryside
muddy
lanes
roads and stuff.
Yeah. You've got your rural roads, which obviously are more your countryside, more maybe Russian front as opposed to the Western front.
These are great because, I mean, not going to mention any other products, but I've looked at grabbing some of these for other game systems just because it's a muddied road, right?
Yeah, and it's ready to play. You just literally whack it out of the box because it's pre-painted. You just put it on the table and you're good to go.
Yeah, so post-apocalyptic games for me, that one.
Absolutely, yeah, and that's what we can use a lot of it for. Even the road sections. I mean, some of these are actually slightly sanded.
Well, yeah, you make tribal huts and stuff too as part of the scene. So I'm pretty sure that's not for World War III.
Well, you never know. I mean, there could be that sacrificial rocks or something.
So
they
bring
come
the
across.
Australians in. And,
So no, we've got obviously a large range of, like you say, terrain, which is good for artillery because you can hide behind buildings. It can disrupt fire. All of our buildings, the roofs come off, and you get different floors, and you can put troops in there.
Yeah,
and that could actually dictate how a battle is won. If you've got Milan teams, for example, from the British, firing down on Russian T-64s or T-80s and things like that.
Multiple floors, so you could have a unit quite nicely.
Yeah, tucked into the building. Same with like the garage here. It's got a removable roof, so you can obviously park your troops in there. And again, the whole lot.
Polish.
Yeah,
hot wax.
Hot wax the wrecking vehicles. Yeah, and then charge off into combat. So yeah, that's in a nutshell. That's our World War III Team-Yankee book. That was actually released in December, but obviously we're just highlighting it again now with the Brits coming out in mid-February.
Because this has basically kind of paved the way for the line of releases for this year.
That's right. So after this, we've got the Americans, then we'll have the Russians or the Soviets coming out again, and then we'll be moving on to West Germans, redoing some of the NATO, the Warsaw Pact, and it's a packed list. I mean, anybody that was at our open day last July, I think you obviously came along to Nottingham for that, saw the whole sneak peek, which is on our website.
It's plastered up on the wall, like a really cool timeline.
Yeah, and the guys in New Zealand have got, right, this is happening here, this is happening here, this is happening here, and I'm getting sort of a little bit like salivating at what's coming out. Like I said in the last video, I got this British book, and I just need the models now, and then I got the rule book back in December, and the fun we've had with some of the games, just transferring it across. My Iranian army is more survivable now.
So how many of these, because of what you're talking about.
Absolutely,
They don't get bogged down, they don't run away as much.
Absolutely, yeah.
How many of these books are due to come out?
So I believe this year we've got 4 books coming out, including the British book.
Yeah.
It could be 5 depending on just obviously release schedules and whether we can get things finished. And more than anything, we're relying on the models.
Yeah.
So there was a slight delay with the British just because we weren't quite happy with the models, and we wanted to make sure that we get the best quality kits coming out to obviously the boys and girls out there in the world that play the game.
Yeah, because with each one, new miniatures with each release.
There's a whole new release. So with the Americans, for example, they will have the M109, they'll have the MLRS because that's a NATO kit, shall we say. But they'll also have options of Bradleys, which are the fighting vehicles for them, upgrades to their M1 Abrahams to M1A1s or M1A1HCs, and then you'll also have the Apache helicopters as well. And there's just some of the new units they've got.
This is, and as we were talking about with this one, oh no, that's the wrong kit, sorry, that's your anti-aircraft.
That's my anti-aircraft,
the brand new kit, which has not even been painted up, there's the option for it to be German style as well.
That's right, so when the West Germans come out, on the sprue here, you've actually got the short wheelbase.
So we have a proper
short
look
wheelbase,
in the video with you up close, but let's have a look now again.
Yeah, so I'll just show you on here, it's not short wheelbase, short barrel, but we've got the M109G as well there, which is obviously the slightly different variant for the essential NATO shell of what the M109 was and what the Americans sold to everybody. And that means that the kits have a little bit of survivability in them as well. Same with the M1A1. It's a slightly different gun. It's 120mm instead of 105mm gun. Slightly bigger bore on it. And that just basically means that you've got a different gun. But you can still take with any other books, the previous models, because it's all valid inside the new system still.
Cool. So that's good. So that's your reason to get the British. And what's the next one coming out?
So the next one after this will be the Americans. I think it's slated for about May time that we'll be having that out, subject to, I'll say, everything coming on time. So Team-Yankee's got a lot happening very quickly. Within a few months, you'll have the next one out. Within a few months, it should be the Soviets. Within a few months, it'll be West Germans and beyond, and whoever else we can get out as quick as possible
Soviets
for the guys.
A fun one. Look forward to seeing the Soviets.
Yes, they've got some very nice kit coming as well with those. So I think they've got the upgrade to the BMP. They've got an upgrade to the T-Tank series, so the T-80 will be coming out for those with different options on that as well. But yeah, if I'd say any more, I might get told off. So
we'll hold that for a video in a couple months' time.
Absolutely, yeah. Join us again for that one, definitely.
Yeah, but in the meantime, we're going to have another look at these. So hop onto the video if you want to see more about the new miniatures, the new vehicles available. So you'll be able to click a little jump across card. And check out the book. It is on sale or pre-order, depending on when you watch this, right now.
Absolutely, thank you.
Cool, awesome.